or dark, they counted me out. Moment of truth, counting it down. Underdog story was down for the count. Back on my feet, back with a mic, back on the beat, back with a family, then back in the streets. The game on lock, I stand with a key. Standing my ground, I am planning to flee. Standing my ground, I am planting my feet. Taking a stand, embracing my destiny, shaking his hand, flipping the script.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Sunday Night CrossFit Talk. I think I actually did that right this week for the first time in like 2 months. And you know why? Because Megan Bowman is in the chat live for the first time, and we need to make it a good experience for her.
Welcome, Megan.
So,
if you haven't already liked, subscribed, and hit that notifier, make sure you do that right now.
Took the words right out of my mouth. And hey, we're doing a couple new things. We are taking listener questions of the week. We didn't get any last week. So you can either jump in the comments after this is done, leave your question there, or DM me on Instagram, and I'll try to put up a question on my story to give you a spot to do that as well. There's one there currently, and you can, if for next week, you can put your question in there, and we'll address that. The other thing we want to do is Riff of the Week. You know, Carolyn has had riffs, Jamie's had riffs, I've had riffs. We want to let you guys have riffs. If you have a riff that you want to talk about that's going on in the CrossFit space, which this week you all had lots of opportunity to riff about something because it was like every day something dropped. Just keep it under 2 minutes, record it on your phone, contact me. We'll find a way for you to drop it to us, and then we will share those if they are appropriate. So we want you to be a part of it. So cool. Sarah Cooper says happy Canada Day tomorrow. And since we are a Canadian podcast, we need to make sure that we celebrate Canada Day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Before we jump into CrossFit news, I learned about this show learned about this TV show on this show, and I binge watched it. They just released all the episodes of season 3 this last week. The Bear.
Oh yeah.
My goodness. 7 episodes into season 3 already.
That is some binge watching.
That is some, yeah.
Well, this season 3, the first 7 episodes are 30 minutes or less. So that lends itself to quick, and then the last 3 are longer. So we stopped. Julie and I both watch it. We are just, man, I love that show so much. The first episode, there may be 6 lines in the entire episode, and it was so tense and so emotional and so jam-packed, and there were no words. And you're just riveted.
All right.
The writer for that show is amazing, and I'm glad they won all the awards last year because they are phenomenal. Sarah, anytime. I love that you guys have the stickers. That's why we do them, so you guys can support the show. We say thank you for being here all the time and supporting the show. Glad you got the stickers. And I learned how to ship to Canada small items for a very minimal cost. So that was really cool.
Everything to Canada is so expensive to ship.
Yeah, if you keep it under an ounce, you can do it for $1.50. But yeah, so not too bad. Anybody else have anything before we jump into the CrossFit stuff?
Nope. I was just trying to train her background.
Oh. Well, Carolyn almost got into a fight at the popcorn stand at the movies today, but I'm not sure we're going to get into all that.
No, the guy at the popcorn stand, we were going to see Inside Out, and he was like to Lex, "Oh my gosh, your arms are so defined." I think he said it like 5 times, and I was about to roll my sleeves up and be like, "Me too, me too." We're like, but no, he was very impressed by her physique, as he kept saying. I was like, yeah, she works out.
Oh, I had the wrong background up. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And Jamie did it. Jamie did it on her own. All right. Draw your dagger. I wish Jamie had an opinion on Masters Games apparel.
He had no thoughts on that at all.
Kenneth says, I love a good Canadian scuffle. And Sarah Cooper said, Inside Out was great.
I loved it. I've been wanting to see it for a while, so I was excited that I got to see it this weekend.
I've got to go see Bad Boys. That's been like a movie from like I was in college when the first one came out. My buddies and I all went to see that, and now like even though the last one wasn't awesome, I want to go see this new one to see if they redeem themselves at all. Any update regarding media at the Masters Games? No. I was supposed to hear back by end of the week, so I will send a follow-up text tomorrow, and we'll find out then, hopefully. And then Lynn says, Jeremy Allen is so good in The Bear. He is. That whole cast is so good. So good.
Scott, have you watched? I was told by a gym member yesterday, we were talking about things on Netflix, and he said he watched, I think it's Swimmers. And he said it was spectacular. It's about like two Syrian sisters that are swimmers.
I have not.
Oh, I heard
I'll look
it
for
was
it.
good. Okay. Yeah.
What I am watching is Missy Franklin and Katie. Dang it. I knew I'd do this. They're both former Olympic swimmers. They have a podcast called Unfiltered Water.
Oh.
And I learned about it while I was at the Olympic trials. I've been watching it. They had Lindsey Vonn on this week. They have a show every Wednesday. They had Lindsey Vonn on. So good. So good about like expectations on people. And like when you hear Missy Franklin say like she didn't feel like she met expectations and she won 5 Olympic gold medals, you're like, what is, but it doesn't matter what we think her expectation is. It's what was like put on her or what she feels was. And Lindsey Vonn had the same thing, who felt she kept missing expectations because of injury. Mm-hmm. And if you followed her career, like knee injury after knee injury, bad crash after bad crash, really good stuff. And I really thoroughly enjoy it. And it's given me that flavor back into the swimming world that I wanted a little bit, but I'll check out that thing on Netflix as well.
Yeah.
And then Andrew Sten said, if you want something to watch, check out Dark Matter on Apple TV Plus and The Gentleman on Netflix.
I've seen The Gentleman. I haven't watched it, but I've seen that pop up.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we're rolling with some people in the chat, let's get into the news of the week. This one was the big one, I think. There's a lot of big ones this week, but Sean Woodland made the announcement on Instagram this week that he will not be calling the CrossFit Games for the first time in like 10 years.
Yeah.
And more than, because what, 12 was his first year? 2012 or 13? So it's been over 10 years or 10 years. So I know Carolyn had strong reactions. We talked via Messenger this week. Carolyn, want to fill people in on what your thoughts are?
Yeah,
you make great points.
Yeah, I was just shocked. Like he's just been the voice of CrossFit, and he's called so many of the biggest moments we've had in our sport. His voice is so recognizable within our sport. And I always found he did a really good job of just doing a background on the athletes and talking about the athletes. Like he always talked about like my athletic background. I know like he always talked about like Paige's like athletic background and just like so many of the athletes. He was not only describing the event, but he allowed us to find out more about the athletes, which I think is a big part of, what I remember from him doing it. But I mean, like, it's goodbye maybe for now, but I expect them to probably do Rogue Invitational, and hopefully come back in the future with the CrossFit Games, because I think he's the best.
Jamie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a travesty. Like, I think when you turn on the broadcast and you hear his voice, you're immediately drawn. I think Chase and like they're good, but there's usually seems to be some controversy around him and why am I drawing a blank right now?
Chase?
Not Chase.
Adrian.
Adrian. Yes. I've been really enjoying Adrian lately. And I think he's a good addition. I don't feel like it's just as weird to me, like what their thought process was. I can't imagine it's a money issue. I can't imagine he's like 100 times more than any of these other guys. Like, it just doesn't make sense. He plays by the rules. He's, I don't know. It's just very strange.
I don't think the man has ever caused controversy.
No.
The only thing ever talked about is like the Tia thing. and he was put in a bad place with that because Tia's camp put him in that place.
Yeah.
And what do you do, right?
Yeah, he was fed information and rolled with it. But yeah, I mean, just some of the lines that he would come up with, like on the spot, was just incredible. Like it was awesome to hear his voice.
This is so on a personal note. Every time I've run into Sean, he has always been the kindest man ever. When I worked on the documentary crew at Rogue as a volunteer, we were stationed outside the booth where he was calling the Rogue Invitational. We rode down on the elevator, always like a gentleman. We talked about other sports. We didn't even talk CrossFit. We were talking football and hockey and all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed my time. He was also one of the first 15 guests, maybe first 10 guests ever on this show.
That's awesome.
Before anybody knew who I even was, he took the time to spend an hour with us. I think it's like episode 13 or episode 12, something like that, that he came on this show. I think it's awesome. And I've told this story a million times. He was the local sportscaster when I lived in Tallahassee, Florida. So like I saw him on TV when he was talking about Florida State football and Florida State baseball and all of that stuff back then. So it was cool that he then came into my world in the CrossFit space. But I do think I think his presence is going to be bigger now than it was. I think every other major event is going to do what they can to have him there.
I agree.
So Rogue has always hired him. He does strongman. He does all the stuff, right? Wadapalooza, Dubai, all those people are going to try to get Sean Woodland now because the demand is there.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to have a busy off season if he chooses to accept those positions.
Which I feel like he would. Like he loves covering CrossFit. So I would be shocked if he wasn't doing Rogue Invitational and going to Scotland. He's for sure doing that in my mind.
Do we know who's calling Masters?
I don't.
Petition for Sean.
It was Annie, Sean, and Bill 3 years ago in California. No.
And Mayhem.
Well, maybe at Mayhem too, but the one in California was Annie, Bill, and Sean. Because I actually walked up on the little stage I had and had an interview with them.
That would be a great 3.
Oh, they were awesome.
Yeah, that would be a great 3.
Yeah. Draw Your Daggers asking, man, I can't get this thing to work. Here we go. Why isn't Scott wearing the uniform like the rest of the gang?
Yeah, Scott, get it together.
I'm in it. Actually, the temperature is down below 70 tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And my basement got really cold, so I had to go with the thick boy hoodie. Yeah, my basement doesn't have much heat, so I go with who I can. All right. So I think we all miss Sean. I did see a post by him very recently that said, maybe it was a clip from their show, how much love he has felt. And he said, sometimes you have to have that in life to realize the effect you've had. And he said he always finishes every broadcast with like, I can't remember what it is exactly, but like be kind to one another or something to that effect. And he says that he wants to work harder at living by those words because of the love that was shown to him during this time. And I think that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. It was really nice to read all the comments from Rory. Had a whole long paragraph, several paragraphs. It was really cool to read some of that stuff.
I couldn't believe the number of comments.
I know.
Like 1,000.
Yeah.
Early, like 6 hours in, like 1,000 comments.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. So another topic we wanted to talk about tonight was reps ahead. Went down yesterday afternoon, last night, wherever you were in the country. And they actually had 5 matches, 2 local matches, then three main events. No, one undercard.
2 local matches. Jake Marconi and
Yep, that one.
Malachi. Was that one? Malachi and Jake, and then the 3 other matches. So 6. Yeah. So
I wanted to put it in there. Carolyn beat me to the punch and put it on her notes. Her comment was, how do we like the format? So I have 2 comments about it that and there's a doodle with a head as big as Carolyn.
Here.
So I watched every match for the first time, and I will admit it's the first time I watched them all. I have 2 critical things, but overall, I really enjoyed the broadcast and the format. So I want to hear from you, and then I'll talk about the 2 things because it's not overly critical. It's just small little tweaks.
Yeah, I think I said this the last time they did the reps head. I'm not a huge fan of the restarting at the top of the, triplet or whatever it is. Like it, and I actually kind of wish this one would have gone more than the 2. Every single one was done in 1 or 2 rounds, and I wish some could have made it to the 3rd round at least. So I don't know. I don't know if it was the choice of the fast to slow movement, what exactly got that hung up there. I would have rather seen a couple go 3 more minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember like the other reps ahead, like they almost went all the way to the length of each round, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to predict like where they're going to finish. Like last time they had double unders and it didn't seem to play as much. Like I thought those were just going to accumulate super, super fast and someone was going to get ahead really, really quickly. And then this time, like if you got to the chest to bar and someone was getting fatigue on the barbell, like you're winning right away. Yep. But the concept is great. It's entertaining. You saw some really cool battles. Like Jake just tried to go for it and was running to the bar to try to get to the chest to bar. And then he just hit a wall, which was, we've all been there before, and it's great to watch and just see how he was going to manage to hold on. And it was interesting to watch even like Paige versus Sydney, and they started with the step down, and it almost looked like Sydney then in the 2nd round wanted to catch her off guard and go. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I think the Marconi strategy was fun to watch. He was going to either win it in the 1st round or he was not going to win it. Right. And that was his strategy right off the get-go, and he went all in. And when you go all in, sometimes you lose really big.
Yeah. It was not surprising to me, but being that we've all now been stepping down our box jumps, that was clearly the separator. in every single match. That was a separator.
Huge separator.
I want to talk about that after we talk about the
Okay.
format a little bit.
Okay.
So my two tweaks, and Carolyn, jump in if there's anything I miss, is one, any competition, I think the judge needs to be identified on the floor with either a hat, a shirt, or something. It just makes it look clunky when you have people in multiple different shirts all over the floor. So, and I know there was a judge running with each athlete, but they need to be in like a dark shirt or something that signifies them as the authority on the floor.
Some sort of uniform.
Right. And it doesn't have to be big, just something that denotes they're the authority and they're running with the athlete. The other thing is it became repetitive because of the slow to fast in the thruster to the chest to bar. And that's why they all seem to end the same way. The Jake one was a little bit different because of his strategy, but the others were all pretty much like this. One person got a little slower on the thruster. The other person hit the gas, got to the chest to bar, banged out as many as they could, and won the match.
Right.
And I think if I heard right, in the other reps ahead, there weren't many knockouts. They went the distance.
Right.
This one, they were all knockouts and they were all early. I think the pendulum just swung too far to the other side. And hopefully they figure out how to kind of get that pendulum more to the middle where you have a little bit of both.
Yeah. Great.
And I do agree with you a little bit on that you have to start at the top, because if you're a strong thruster person, you have the advantage because you're always going to get to start on your strength.
Yeah.
And I think that did make a difference for Sydney, for sure. And probably even Kyra. Kyra's range of motion was so much smaller than Kelly's that she made up that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think they all kind of shook out about what I expected.
But I think, like Jamie said, the box jumps were huge.
Absolutely.
The Sydney one surprised me. I'll be honest. I thought Paige was going to beat Sydney. The rest of them kind of went how I thought. Sydney beating Paige was, I thought, a really cool thing to happen.
That quickly surprised me. I wondered how much training Paige has been putting in. And she didn't seem to have like that fire in her, kind of even from the get-go. It almost looked like she was kind of just out there to have fun. But that rebounding spikes your heart rate immediately. So if you aren't practicing it and then you're going to thrusters, which spikes your heart rate immediately, like you're going to redline out the gate if that is not how you normally train.
So let's talk.
And like
okay, go ahead, Carolyn.
it looked like she tried to match Sydney in the second round with the touch and go box jumps with like not the step down, and then she quickly resorted back to the step down, and it was just significantly slower. And once Sydney got to the chest to bar, like it was done. So I don't know if that's just like it wasn't worth it for her in the off season to to push that, for her to go on like that touch and go and risk an injury. It's almost like it would be, and the boys, and I think Fee did that also in the last reps ahead, where they kind of made it where you couldn't rebound I think it was a hang power clean, and you couldn't bounce it off your quads.
Yeah.
And just kind of make it fair game. So I don't know if there was any, I mean, it looked like there wasn't like a, between both of them, like a mutual agreement to be like, okay, let's step down and then let's see who can win the race. Like people were doing both versions, and it was just way slower to step down.
It is.
Aaron Fraser said, Sydney looked incredible. Made me disappointed she won't be at the games. Yeah. But she's been training high rock, so we know she's been training throughout this, and she's doing like every comp she can according to her interview.
Yeah.
So with the rebounding, there was a lot of talk last night that there are people that feel that it should not be removed from the CrossFit Games season, and and people aren't practicing it now because it has been removed. And so should it be something that you practice? Should it be added back in? Yeah, you're never going to prevent every injury, but that does seem to cause a very common and devastating injury. Your thoughts?
I mean, I like rebounding. I've done a lot of bounding my whole life with the sports that I've done and Taekwondo. And I train a lot of, I don't know if you've seen like some of my training that I do. I do a lot of like single leg jumps and just repeated bounding. So I don't know if I'm used to that. So I would like to see it to stay in, but I do know that there's a lot of injuries, but we can't prevent, like, it's hard. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. Like I was watching, the gymnastics this past weekend. I don't even know which day of the week it is now that I'm off for the summer. But there was like 2 gymnasts that, tore their Achilles this weekend, at their Olympic trials. So like, it's part of sports. It's unfortunate. I'm not sure. I think maybe in the masters division, it's not necessary, but I think in the open division, let's go for it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong thinking that.
I mean, I feel like it's sort of a self-preservation thing. Like you as an athlete have to make that choice. Even if it was allowed, I would probably step down. And sure, there's going to be events where that probably costs me, but I also think you see what that did to some people. So like, if it's a long enough workout, there's a risk reward to it in general, like just the cardio aspect of it. So, which it sort of sucks. I wish this could have gone longer to see that, like, that build up over time and what it did to some of these athletes that kept rebounding. That's where it sort of sucks for me that they only went like 1 round, because I would have liked to seen, could they even maintain that? But yeah, I don't know if it should be forced upon them to take it out. I think it should almost be your own, like, it's the same with the rope, coming down the rope fast and how you come, if you want to jump down, like, that's your own risk.
Aaron Fraser says, I think he's saying being durable is part of fitness.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
In one of the athlete interviews with Castro, one of the athletes said that, like, you need to train durability. You need to know when your body needs rest. You need, like, that is part of the game.
Yep, it is.
And I think you always get the athlete's opinion is, let us make the choice.
Yeah, I think most people would lean that way.
And that happens in the NFL all the time too. They try to legislate safety, and the players are like, come on, like, it's a game of collisions.
Yeah.
People are going to get hurt. But the athlete always wants to make the decision themselves. So, okay. So now we're going back to the very beginning of the week and Don Faul's appearance on Coffee Pods and Wods. I think this has been talked about to death all week, but I haven't had your opinions, and I'd love to hear if you have any opinions about his take. My sole take that I really take from this is the media thing, that they are not putting out media, and then they're being critical of media on top of that. And I don't think you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. The whole outside company, like them not paying for this behind the scenes and it coming out whenever, it's not, like, is so strange to me. It like they both said it like it was a good thing. Like they didn't even pay for it. And I don't think that's a good thing. Like,
so that didn't bug me. That part did not bother me. That part, who cares if they put out a documentary? We have 3 behind the scenes, more than that. We have Craig Ritchie's, we have the Buttery Bros, we have Savons, we have Mayhem's, we have, like, if you want behind the scenes, we've got so much of it.
yeah, but did we need other people out there on the floor taking up space, like being in the way for something that probably the space doesn't even need. It's not even going to be distributed at a time that even makes sense. And I feel like part of the reason stuff isn't being put out is because they're relying on that, or they're not sharing things because they've put their eggs in that basket. And had they not even like gone down that road, maybe things like your interviews and Savant's behind the scenes would have been shared and posted more.
Yeah. I mean, they did share every episode of Savant's on their YouTube channel. So they did do that, and they didn't pay for that either. But they haven't shared hardly anything since.
Right.
Draw Your Dagger says, I'm just hoping they accidentally accept my media pass application because I don't think we get it. Yeah, I don't know. I bought for the first time ever, I bought my plane ticket.
I just hope that
without knowing. Go ahead, Carolyn.
If my internet's going, I don't know if my internet's going bad or not. But he talked about the media, and obviously they can do better on YouTube and stuff like that. And I just feel like they keep saying that they could do more. And like, they have these like little times during the year where you're like, oh, I think something's happening. Like, you know, they're starting to post more, and then it just stops. And it's just kind of that repetitive theme continuously. Like at one point you had like the magic of CrossFit where they were posting things on their Instagram, and then it just kind of stopped. And then you were thinking that things were starting to go, and yeah, it's the same thing over and over. So they obviously know that the media is important, but there hasn't been significant change that I've seen in the past few years.
Yeah, go ahead.
Aaron Fraser says, why isn't the breaks at the games and semis full of affiliate commercials? I completely agree. In addition to that, I said this on my interview with Rudy and Lynette Berger this afternoon. Why didn't they put the Masters first and fill the breaks with reruns of the events during the games?
Because someone was busy.
Okay. We don't have a yes yet, so let's just wait a week for that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, and I've said this before, I feel like Don's just full of corporate speak, and it's frustrating. Like, it's just words, and there's been no change. And it's incredibly frustrating. For the first time, Jamie, you've been with me a long time. I have been a very staunch defender of Don Faul. You have. And I've been
patient and letting him have time.
Yes.
I felt like this interview this week was as tone deaf as I have heard in his time.
Yeah.
And I hate to say, I have truly been a strong supporter of him.
You have.
So have I. I've met him a few times, and I thought, I think he's super approachable. We've had great conversations.
Yeah. Every time I've talked to him, I felt like he's listening to me. And maybe that's why he's a CEO. But honestly, I feel like when you blame the lack of media on money, when there are 20 third-party media people out producing you individually, not even as a group, individually, 20 different media companies outperforming you, and we have no budget here. Like, there's nothing on our budget sheet.
Correct.
My wallet in my pocket.
Yeah.
That's it. And we put out more content than they do tenfold.
Yep.
That is so tone deaf. And I feel like every question that was asked of him was the same answer he's given in the past, but there's more evidence to the contrary now, and the answer isn't changing.
Right.
And I thought Pedro did a great job asking, the right questions, and he was trying to get certain answers. He was like, he interviews very well. And we just weren't getting those specifics that we want to hear.
He is so good at casually asking questions that are very hard to ask, but making it sound like you're just sitting at the dining room table having a chat.
Mm-hmm.
And I applaud him. He did an amazing job with that.
Yes, good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Denise Moore asks, does it feel a bit sleight of hand? It does.
It does.
How much control does he really have? Is he just the voice box for this group that we never see?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think that's a cop out too, though. Like, to say, like, it's the same with Rosa after a while, right? Like, people are like, well, there's a board. He's not really in control. Like, well, I mean, maybe he shouldn't even be speaking for the board then. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just not a good look.
Aaron Fraser, $49.99.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work and great content. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. We couldn't do it without the support of this audience.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, I think we've beat this horse to death,
Yeah.
and it's been beaten down all week. But I wanted you guys to have your platform to give that opinion.
When he talked about Hiller, though, like, I understand where he's coming from. Like, Hiller has a way of, critiquing the company or critiquing members of, CrossFit and going directly attacking at them. While his points can be great, sometimes I don't agree with what he says. There are moments where he directly attacks people, and like he's like, you can critique things or whatever, but don't critique specifically, like that, like, a person that's not asking for it or whatever. And like, I understand where he's coming from for, that part in protecting his employees and stuff like that. Like, you can't fault him for, protecting the family. That's my opinion.
Here's my only issue with it. There are things that Hiller says I don't agree with, right? But here's the thing. Don't lash out at Hiller on a podcast. That is not professional. It's not the way a professional organization responds to things like that. Reach out to Hiller privately, have a conversation. Like, and then sit at a table and have the discussion back and forth where maybe you can come to some commonality.
I agree with that. I think there's discussions that they could have with him, have his input, ask, what they can do better, and just have like an actual adult conversation without everything going to YouTube. But I mean, that's how Hiller will make his money and grasp his audience. But that conversation needs to happen between CrossFit and him, right? Like, it could get things better, and it's not happening for whatever reason. They've kind of put a stop to any kind of conversation with him, or, just don't want to share any of his stuff, even though some of it is great. Like, they could totally talk more. And
I think that's it exactly. Is they've made it very clear that they don't want to talk to him, and they aren't even ingesting his stuff. Like, that's frustrating when they're like, well, he's just abrasive. He just attacks people. He's like, you just don't like him and you aren't listening to him. And that's the bottom line, because he is saying he does have constructive criticism. You are offended by things he say, and that's on you. Not like, he doesn't normally say things that aren't straight facts or said from someone else's mouth. So you're interpreting it how you want to interpret it.
I don't know. I still think that there's some personal where he goes, he continues to go at, specific people when he could like just get his point out in a different way, but it doesn't get the views and it's, doesn't get the people going the same way. But yeah.
So Vi says, to be fair, he didn't go directly for Hiller. Peter asked him if he was alluding to Hiller, and he said something like, yes, him and others. Completely agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just don't think they're consuming enough of his content to say that it's all bad.
Which is a mistake because his reach is so big, and you should have someone on your staff watching every single one of the videos and bringing back that information to CrossFit and having discussions. Is he right? What, or do we agree, disagree, or whatever? But
there should be someone
be looking at
everybody's videos.
Absolutely. Not just him, everyone's.
Right,
yeah.
Everybody's. Because if it's good content, share it.
Yes.
If it's something you need to address internally, address it, and then find out how to handle whatever it is. Maybe you need clarification. So to speak to Lex, yeah, but what gives him the credentials? They owe him a conversation. I didn't say they owe him a conversation. I think it behooves them to have a conversation with him. One, to dampen the fire. Two, to find out clarifications as to what he's talking about. And maybe you can build a bridge over the miscommunication or understand what he's saying better, that you can address that issue. Yeah, there should be someone dedicated to watching content. We do that for this show, right? So that we can have these discussions.
Yeah, because they should be like, they should know what kind of conversations are in the space, whether they're reading Reddit or, on YouTube or Instagram. Like they should be aware of people's opinions. Now, a lot of times it's the same group of people on a lot of these podcasts, and they can have a certain view that's very skewed in our community and maybe not reflective of everyone. Because you do see that within some of the podcasts, but in general, like they should be watching every one of the videos. And that's why I think, not that they owe him a talk, but I think it would be in their best interest to have conversations with him. And
they don't owe him anything.
No,
nobody owes anybody anything.
Yeah.
At all. I think in their best interest, they should. Sarah Cooper says they should pay me to do that. I watch all the content.
She does.
Agreed.
I think they're poking the bear at this point, and he's just going to keep I think that's the problem. They're just making him angrier.
Because while Peter's the one that brought up Hiller's name in Dave's Week in Review, which is our next topic, Dave brought up Hiller specifically and went after him for the same thing about personal attacks. And I am not condoning personal attacks. I think that Hiller has a lot of good that comes out, but he also has some things I don't agree with. But I don't always understand what he's totally talking about either. And sometimes I need clarification as to what he's saying.
Well, I think that there's been attacks on different communities within our community. Like
From
there's
Hiller?
been attacks. Yes, there's been attacks on LGBTQ posts as of late. There's been, just different comments and stuff like that. That I don't agree with. I still think that there's been attacks on a lot of members of CrossFit. While he's making his points that could be valid in certain people's eyes or not in others, like there are attacks, I think, where I'm like uncomfortable sometimes watching or consuming some of the content because I'm putting myself in people's, having empathy towards certain individuals. And there's just like a different way that you could approach certain, there's certain topics or that you want to bring up without going, directly that way.
Yeah. So with that, I did want to talk a little bit about Dave's week in review, because last week we did have a conversation about, well, let's finish it up. So he did go back after Hiller because of and I can't remember her name. Annette Rivas.
Yes.
Specifically, Dave did name that attack, that person, and Hiller all in the same.
He didn't attack her.
Right.
I mean, you may feel like he kept playing her statements and kept pointing things out, and you may feel like that's attack, but all he's doing is taking things that she put into public and highlighting it. So like, and it's not really our place to be offended for her. Like you're choosing to be offended.
If I am her, I probably feel like I'm attacked.
Absolutely. And sometimes the biggest problem isn't necessarily with like Hiller himself. Like he incites different people, like within it's the comments that gets out of hand sometimes within like the different posts or whatever. Like those can get ugly sometimes. But like I would feel attacked if I was that lady.
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming she probably does feel attacked, but that's her. That seems to me, watching her words, that seems to be her identity, is feeling attacked. So yes, I'm sure she feels attacked.
Yeah. So I think Carolyn's clarification on the LGBTQ stuff is in the comments. There was a post made a week and a half ago, and the comments were
horrible to read. Horrible to read.
That's not Hiller though.
But that's what I'm saying. But he's posting something to draw attention in our community and talking about the pronouns and stuff, and it was bad in the comments. And it's disappointing as an athlete within that community. Just like, even though some of it might not be towards me or just, other ones are my friends, and you're reading some of the comments from people in our community, and whether it's athletes liking the post or writing within things, it's hurtful because it's people that I care about. And it's just, it gets ugly in the comments. And that might not be his intention, but that's what came out of it. And I just think that there's some posts that are unnecessary to do. And there's better things to talk about and more important things to talk about within our space than to bring certain things up that just creates a divide within our community for no reason. Like, this community is more inclusive than any other community that I've ever been a part of. I mean, women's hockey is pretty inclusive, and it is like I'm very proud to be, a part of this CrossFit community. And it's disappointing and hurtful when you see some of the comments, and it just gets spread like horrible. So that's you're alluding to the one that I was talking about, Scott.
Yeah. So, and I don't read a lot of comments. That's not something that I generally do. So I'm not aware of those when they happen, but it was, Karen and I had a discussion about it last week. And I know that happened there. So I just wanted to clarify, no, it wasn't Hiller's words. It was in the comments, but it gets, I'm sure if you're part of that community, it does get very hard to read. And again, I don't read comments generally on anything. So I didn't see what exactly was said. But I can go back and look at that. So the other thing I wanted to bring up with Dave is we talked about it last week and him trying to interview all 80 athletes. Mm-hmm. And I said on this show that he wasn't going to get more than 18 of the 80.
I think he's going to get you there.
He's going to get me there. I'm pretty sure. Because he was banging out a bunch this weekend. And I'm trying to keep up, but it's tough. The other thing I said is I felt like it was a conflict of interest. And I may be softening on that stance a little bit, watching how they're playing out. Because it is a fact. He did not know most of the athletes that were competing at the CrossFit Games. He is not aware of times when, what the people were strong or weak at, anything. And I don't think a 10-minute interview is going to all of a sudden make him think, well, I like this person and they said they were strong in this. I don't think he's going to retain that much stuff. The other thing I'm going to say is I have really thoroughly enjoyed them because he doesn't know who they are. And the questions he's asking seem to be very rudimentary, but they are actually very endearing. And if you're new to CrossFit, they're a great thing to kind of learn about the athletes because they are a quick hit, 10 to 13 minutes of basic information about this athlete and maybe a fun story or two.
Yeah, I've enjoyed listening to them. I think they're getting better and better as he's done more of them. And at first, with with the first one, I thought it was going to be more of a conflict of interest, same as you. And I think he's actually learning more about the athletes now and asking different questions than just what are your strengths and weaknesses and what do you want to see at the games? What do you not want to see at the games? I think he's kind of staying more away from that. And I've learned more things about the athletes in the last little bit. So I think it's been fine now. And I don't know, I think he's going to get almost all 80.
Do you think, I know we had heard that there were some athletes who didn't want to do it. Do you think some are changing their mind after seeing these?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think there are probably going to be people that don't do it. And he says, like, listen, the only ones of the 80 I'm not getting are people that tell me they don't want to do it.
Right. Right.
I'm guessing someone has said that already.
Yeah.
But so with that, I'm with you, Carolyn. I think the athletes he knew better, he was asking the strengths and weaknesses to kind of poke at them more than try to learn something.
Yeah.
Like to see if they would actually answer or be willing to tell him that. And as he's getting into the athletes he doesn't know, he's not poking at them. He's really just trying to learn like how they got there.
Agree.
I see everybody saying the Ruan interview was really great. I thought it was too. And he was very forthright. The Cole Sager one was really doggone good.
I haven't seen that one.
Like it was almost like two highly educated people in their field having a conversation about how things should be done. And as a person of faith myself, at the end, Dave was asking questions about Cole's faith after reading the Bible and wanting to talk to Cole more, not in this setting, but maybe getting together at the games or another place where they could discuss more.
Wow.
And I could not believe I was actually hearing that.
Yeah, I noticed that at the end. Like it was like, we'll talk more about it, like at the games or somewhere. That was cool.
And Cole was really good about like just being around for so long and trying to figure out like how to train during this time of the year. They've all been really good. Brandon's was great. James's was great. I think all that was, I've enjoyed all of Jason Hopper's was great.
Started out a mess. Typical Hopper.
Yeah. Lost internet connection, the whole bit. Yeah. Yeah. Dallins was great. Like they all, Saxon asking the question. And I thought this was one of the best nuggets. To win the money at the CrossFit Games, should you have your L1? And Saxon believes that you should. Dave said he thinks you should, but they're never going to go to that because it just isn't fair. But it brings up a point of reconnecting the community with the athletes.
Yeah. Which Saxon has been pushing. I mean, you've caught that in some of his media.
Yeah. So it really good stuff and really turned me around this week. But
Same here.
Everybody's asking him their one question, right? Most of them are saying, "What are you most excited about?" And every time he answers, the venue.
I know.
Yeah, let's come up with something else, guys.
Yeah.
Someone asked something different today, though. I forget what it was. Maybe it was Cole that asked something different. It wasn't that question about what are you most excited about. I have to think about it. What it was.
A couple of people asked like how he comes up with his themes.
Yeah, maybe that's
that was pretty good. So.
But yeah, they're getting better, and I'm enjoying them a lot.
Yeah, but really, I hope he gets to all of them, and I hope everybody does it. It's funny though, like as he started, they were truly like 8 to 9 minutes. And as he's going, they're getting a little tiny bit longer each time, where we're at like 13 to 14 minutes now. And this started as a 5 to 10 minute thing. And I think Saxon, he was trying to board a plane and Saxon didn't want to let him go.
That sounds about right. They're talkers.
Yeah. So a quick hitter that we wanted to talk about, just quick, because we don't have a lot of details right now, is the PIT Mentorship Program. The PIT Fitness Ranch and the CrossFit Games for the teen division set up a mentorship program. And the mentors for this program are our very own Carolyn Prevost, Ty Jenkins, Ariel Lowen, Pat, James Sprague, Noah, Saxon, Spencer, Paige Semenza, Tim Paulson, Matthew Rattay, Alex Kazan, Alexis Raptis, Carlene Matthews, Dallin Pepper, Griffin Rawl, and Con Porter. So these are some amazing high-level elite athletes pouring into the teen division that we have now. And you had your welcome call, right, Carolyn?
It wasn't a call yet. I think we'll have to set something up in the next week or two, which will be hard to coordinate because there's different time zones and everything like that. So it's just kind of meeting them. I'm working specifically with Ty Jenkins, and we've got I think they're all girls in the 14, 15. I think one 16 to 17-year-old. So just learning a lot about them. A lot of them have gymnastics background and found CrossFit through their family that was doing it, and a lot of them have specialized now in CrossFit, where they're focused solely on that, which is interesting because me and Ty both come from 4 sport backgrounds of, doing CrossFit with other sports. So I think that's something that we'll try to talk to them about, whether it's during their rest day or after the games, exploring different activities just to find a balance within their training and that style, which can be very difficult. And especially coming from gymnastics, which is a very perfectionist sport, right? It can be very hard on yourself as an athlete when you continue in another individualized sport with the standards and the pressure of CrossFit. So I think just, exploring whether it's just recreationally or doing other sports could be, I think, beneficial to this group that I'm particularly mentoring.
I want to ask one quick follow-up to this. When we watched the Cole interview with Dave, that's the one question that was different too, where is he looking for that Division I athlete to jump into CrossFit and be able to be good? And Dave's response was that used to be his hope, that like someone from another sport could come in and do well. Now he hopes that the teen division that they've built produces the best athletes. If you had 3 minutes with Dave, would you plead with him that the athletes need to play other sports as well?
Yes. I will always think that CrossFit is a great way to train for their sport and supplement like their training, whether they're playing volleyball, basketball, hockey, whatever sport that they're doing. I think CrossFit is a great way to help out their sport. And it's always going to be there. I mean, it's not like they're that young specializing, like in high school, you start seeing specialized athletes in different sports. So I don't think it's the end of the world that some of them are specializing, but I do think that there's benefit to doing other things, whether it's, socially, playing team sports or just learning from different coaches or being more adaptable in life. I think there's a lot of benefits to just doing other things than just putting all your eggs in one basket. And the thing with CrossFit is there's no scholarship, right? So like I had my whole education paid for with a full ride in hockey. And, when these athletes are quitting everything and going all in on CrossFit, a lot of times, they're pushing back going to university. They're trying to make that jump from the teenagers to the CrossFit Games. And very few people have been able to do that jump pretty quickly, right? Like you've seen the Emma Cares, the Mal O'Briens, the Emma Lawsons, the Olivia, and now you're seeing James and Dallin, and I could go on. There's a few others like Tudor that are coming from the teen programs. But I think, getting that education paid for was awesome. And if I could have done CrossFit to help me for hockey, I wish I could have done that. But I always think being an athlete, there's very, very, very few people that will make a career out of CrossFit.
Draw your dagger. You can't jump into CrossFit now and be competitive right away, no matter how good of an athlete you are.
Do you think that's a problem that we've promoted this teen games to this level? Like, does it need to be something a little bit different? Like more like seeing things like the combine type testing or like the softball toss, like trying to throw in specific sport elements into this to actually get and not make it so CrossFit-y. Like, should we transform the teen games aspect so it isn't like we're just throwing you into the games?
I don't think they need to. I don't know for that.
I mean, if you're going into CrossFit games as a teen, you're just specializing in CrossFit if you want to get good at it.
I mean, I'm sure there's some that are doing other sports, but you are seeing more and more people focus only on CrossFit, and that's where I think you see burnouts happening or just a change of mind. Which I mean, that's sports. There's burnout in every sport, and certain people are able to be more in tune with their body or have that little bit more balance in their life to not fall into that burnout stage. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I like CrossFit will always be there, and I think there's certain opportunities to do other things too.
Yeah, and I think even people like Dallin Pepper played high school sports as well as did James Sprague was a swimmer. James did some other things in high school as well. So I think like that gets misleading. Sometimes people think they just did CrossFit and specialized, but you are seeing that now. And I think my answer to you, Jamie, is anytime you put a sport on ESPN these days, whatever that sport is, there are going to be kids or parents that want their children to specialize.
Yep.
There are people arguing that Abby Domit jumped into the sport and was good. It still took her 2 years to make the games,
which is pretty rare. I think you could do that in 2014 and before, maybe a little bit after that. But in this CrossFit that we're seeing now in this new generation, that's extremely rare what Abby Domit has done in terms of making the games in like basically her second year and now winning the semifinal in her third year. Like that's very, very rare. But she has some sort of, I think it was like a cheerleading background or a tumbling background or gymnastics background, which always helps.
So Michael Park is doubting our count. We interviewed Abby back in 2022.
Yep.
She had been doing the sport for a year at that point. So 2022, she did not make the games. 2023, she did. 2024 has made it again.
She's been competing since 21. Didn't she start in like COVID, like 20?
Yeah.
Right. She starts.
Yeah. But the first time we interviewed her, like she had been doing it for a year or a little more.
Yeah.
At that point. And you can go, all the interviews are still out on YouTube. We interviewed her every year. She made semifinals.
I still think it's pretty rare in this generation of CrossFitters to come up as quickly as she did. It's a rare thing.
Yeah. So the next thing is the Service Cup.
Oh yeah.
So congratulations to our very own Carolyn Prevost, who is the fittest educator in the world. I'm just going to pull this up real quick. Holly did a great graphic congratulating all the athletes. And I can barely see the arrow. There we go. So there's Carolyn as educator. Kelly Benfee, who's a friend of the show, won for medical professional. And there's Carolyn. Danielle Haig won for military veteran. Shanna Lowy won for active duty military. Autumn Mills won for law enforcement officer. Bailey Strachan won for female firefighter. And then first responder Kelly Pashowitz and EMS responder Kendall Watt. And trainer was Ali Zerke, Colton Merton's very own fiance. Erin Snellgrove is affiliate owner. And so congratulations to those ladies for winning their divisions. Here is the competitive male, and it was Brad Heimer, won for medical professional. Matt Carden won for educator. Bruce Thomas for military veteran. Seth Hebert or Hebert, for active duty. Casey McAllister for law enforcement officer. Sergio Brasino for firefighter. Andrew Doman for first responder. Chris Neske for EMS. And Coben Plessinger for CrossFit trainer. And finally, Ben Wise for affiliate owner. And there's that. Congratulations to everybody who participated in the Service Cup games and beat Dave Castro. Which it was a slew of you all.
Yes.
So the next thing on the docket is coaching news.
Oh boy.
It was announced on Wednesday that Kiefer Lamy, I never can pronounce it right, left Underdogs and went to Proven. And in response to that, Underdogs named Casey Acree as head coach and head of programming for Underdogs Athletics.
Yep.
Kiefer is taking all of his athletes with him, but he is giving them the option to fly whichever flag they feel comfortable with for this year. And Lynn, Casey has always been an Underdogs coach. He's been there for a couple of years, but he has just been promoted from regular coach to head coach and head of programming. So that's really awesome. But all this happened 6 weeks before the games.
Yeah. It seems like, yeah.
Does it have an effect if all the athletes are staying with Kiefer?
No. I mean, they have their coach. It doesn't like the brand doesn't matter. You have your people.
Here's my thing that I do find fascinating from a drummer perspective is that they plan on continuing to be in Vegas and at the moment are still working out at Camp Rhino.
That's weird.
That has got to be tough. And when Alex Gazan was on Savan, she says she's actually training more out of Camp Rhino North now than the Camp Rhino South, which is where everybody else is at. And a few of the athletes are coming up there to train with her.
I guess it's hard to say because like if he was, it depends on the relationship and how the ties got cut at the end of it. Like if he was offered like a huge opportunity, like let's say money wise, and he had a discussion with Justin and it was like, this is an opportunity that I have. And like, this is, I have to like, what do you think? If I should take it. And if Justin says, like I'm not able to match that and I fully understand, if you're going like, you just don't know how the discussions were. And if it was, something like that, I don't see like a huge issue with maybe training with under the same facility. And I think that they can be, respectful adults and I guess now competitors. But I know that, it obviously would hurt Justin and he's very passionate with his athletes and all of that. But I guess it just depends how it stopped and what was said and whether it was kind of like behind your back or more upfront. Right. And I don't know. It's not my place to know that.
Funny you should say that. We are having Justin Kotler on the show this Wednesday, I believe at noon Eastern time. It's later in the notes. So we'll get to talk to Justin about all that. This is the part I have a problem with. If Kiefer's offered a job and it's more money or whatever, like he has the right to take that job. We're all free agents in life, right? If I'm working my job and the state of Pennsylvania offered me more money and I wanted to take that, I have the right to do that. What I have a problem with is why is Proven offering a job at this point in the season? Jarrett Smith is their head of elite programming. Why did they need to hire Kiefer on at this moment?
That's a good question.
That's the part I have a problem with. It's not Kiefer taking the job, because if you're offered it, you're entitled to take it. But it just seems like out of school to offer the job right now. A year ago, Proven lost Brooke, Saxon, and everybody of consequence from their lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, they've added Joey Turturro and Jarrett Smith as coaches and brought in their athletes and Colton Mertens. Now they're bringing in all these other athletes, and they're going to get to say that all these athletes are proven athletes at the games.
Right.
And truly, most of them did not get their training in Proven to make the games.
Right.
I mean, it's like Pat Vellner and HWPO. Like to me, Pat Vellner was not made by HWPO. He was made by DECA and working with Michelle for 8 or 9 years, however long it was, right? So if those athletes choose to fly the Proven banner, I'm not sure. Like if you've been with Underdogs for, let's say, multiple years, I think some of the athletes will choose to still represent Underdogs at the end of the day, just for this games, and maybe going forward after the games, we'll have a new banner to fly. But that's what I would do, but I don't know. I'm not in that position.
Nick said the position was posted for a while. It's fine that it's posted for a while. You don't have to make the hire. Or you can tell Kiefer, hey, after the games is when your effective date is. That's when we're going to move. Like there are more professional ways to handle this. And that's my thing. So if I have a gripe, it's about Proven, not about Kiefer taking the job. So there's that. All right. And I'm happy for Casey Acree, by the way. That guy is just a great human being. Love that dude to death. So pumped that he has been promoted. And I know Justin believes in him a lot. Justin has talked to me about Casey and loves the way he thinks. So I'm super happy for Casey, and I think it's a good fit with Justin. So super stoked for that. So this is a quick one because we don't have anything out of this. Dave announced in the Dallin interview that cuts would be coming that day within 24 hours. Still nothing on the cuts schedule for that. But I do want to say there's been a lot of talk about cuts this week. And I'll say who I saw this from. I saw this. Seth Jumpship said something on Celebrity Jeopardy in the chat that he loves the cuts because of the drama it brings. And that got me incensed to possibly riff off here. If where you want the drama is at 30th place and 20th place, then you're looking for the wrong kind of drama. The drama should be who is on the podium, who is trying to get to the podium, who is trying to win the CrossFit Games. If you are trying to push the drama in any other direction than where that is, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you are cutting the field because you need to, or because you have a time constraint because of television coverage or whatever it may be, that is one legit reason why I can see it. However, if you're doing it just for the drama, it makes no sense. Everybody bitched, even Dave, that the drama at semifinals was at the cut line or was at the games qualification line. 10th place, 8th place, 11th place, whatever it was for that semifinal. And he hated that it played out that way. By making cuts at the games, you are simulating the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
The drama being at 30th and then at 20th.
Yeah.
I just think the cuts don't make sense in our sport. If we have to have a smaller field to, for the test, then invite less people. But the field that takes the floor should be able to do the full set of tests, because the point system changes. You're putting more value in later events because they're now worth more points. So you're saying these tests are actually more important for your fitness, but the rest of the beginning of the stage is still affected the leaderboard. It's like doing a decathlon and making cuts after the 5th or 6th event. Like, you would never happen. You cannot compare our sport to a swimming meet where there's elimination style, because you're doing the exact same thing. Or a sport like golf or hockey where there's like elimination bracket. You just happen to have, a tough draw. Like that's expected. But for us, for our definition of fitness, every single test is supposed to matter in the test of fitness and should be of equal value in terms of points. And to me as an athlete, it never made sense for what the methodology is. But I mean, we were never meant to be a sport anyways. So I guess we could make up like our own rules, but it just, to me, it's like invite less people, invite 30 and do 2 heats of 15 if you want to just do it into 2 heats, or invite 20. But whoever goes to the games does the full games, and you can actually see, 17th place is 17th place, not 17th, right. Because there's money now for every single placing. Like, people could have switched from, look at someone like Kelly Baker last year, who almost made the 2 cuts in a row, and won a significantly more money that way. So I don't know. I've always been of the no cuts and just invite less people if there's a logistic problem.
Right. The cuts are, did I pull that up? So, okay. Yeah. Bruce, no one really cares about the first or second heats. LOL. Then you are not a true sport fan of the sport.
I have something to say about this too. You don't stack one bad decision to cover up another bad decision. The reason you can even say this is because we don't have the right 40 people at the
Correct.
games.
Correct.
If you had the right 40 people at the games, people would care about Heat 1 because there'd be people in that heat that could win that event. Just like what happened at the North America East semifinal. There were people in every heat that could win the event. So it made every heat important. What happens, though, is because we don't get the right 40 people to the games, now Heat 1 becomes irrelevant.
Right.
Spot on. If you invite, let's say 30, but it's 30, it's the top 30 in the world. However, they can determine that, but it's legit the top 30. You can do 3 heats of 10 or 2 heats of 15 or whatever you want to do. And you're going to be more invested because it's all the best athletes and they can affect the leaderboard and they all have wheelhouse workouts. And yeah, like you need those people to middle. But when certain athletes are there that aren't going to middle in basically anything, that's when you, like you said, you don't care for that as much.
Yeah. And that's the only reason that it matters or doesn't matter is because we don't have the first heat has a chunk of people that shouldn't be there.
Agreed.
And I shouldn't say it shouldn't be there, are not fit enough to be there.
Right. 10th, 11th, 12th, 20th out of North America East would beat all 8 of those people.
Yeah. Last 2 quick hitters is RV site at the games must not be going well. They slashed the price and took away some of the perks that will be at the RV park, but it went from, I want to say, over $1,000 to $400 for the weekend to be able to park in the RV park. They're taking away sponsored activations, extra bathrooms, etc. If you bought a spot and now don't want to be there because they've taken that stuff away, they will give you a full refund of your money. If you want to be there still with that lack of stuff, they will give you a refund down to the current price. So I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
The other thing that hit this week was our first drug popping of the season with 3 people from the 3 people from Asia, 1 from North America East. The North America East was a team.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Mayhem team.
Mm-hmm.
And another Mayhem team will get in based on it.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of comments about this. I'll get to the other piece, the individuals in a second. But if you're Mayhem, I know their athletes have to sign a contract. Do you think there's anything in that contract about popping for PEDs?
No, I don't think there is. I think I've seen the contract.
Yeah.
I can't speak on the contracts. I don't know.
Yeah. That name has become so big and such a big part in the sport. I think that if you are with Mayhem, you need to start protecting yourself from these situations.
Yeah.
Because that is bad for the brand.
How do you do that?
I don't know. Unless you start testing
can't control.
yourself.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that is the risk you take when you're trying to grow and you're accepting anyone to be a part of this growing empire.
Do you think they've grown too big to control that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think Mayhem can control. They can educate them and tell them, what resources they can look up to see whether their supplements are safe and stuff. But at the end of the day, you can't control what someone's going to do. Like that's a tough part about being on a team as well, because like the 3 that popped were individual from the Asia, and then the one that's on the team, which I know that guy very well. I've competed with him before, even locally in Toronto. So I'm heartbroken to hear that. I'm heartbroken for the team members that I know very well. Just sad because like when you're signing up for a team, like you're putting everything in for that team, and you're hoping that everyone's on the same page. People are traveling in, people have families or other obligations, and it's not just you that you let down, it's your team.
Yeah. It's got to be hard in the team aspect.
When it's an individual, I don't feel as bad because it's on them, and they got caught or whatever situation. But when it's on a team, it really hurts to see that for the other members.
Derek Summers, the larger their athlete membership will grow, the larger the chance of this happening. Tough to avoid it. Probably right. Yeah. It's just, man, you're trying to protect that brand.
Yeah. Well, Vi said they had a team pop years ago, right? It was a female athlete, Ellie. Yes, Ellie Kabord on their richest team. Well, it would have been.
Well, they had split to two at that point.
It would have been independence at that team at that point. So she was on the second team. So yeah, I mean, it's already very close to home. So.
Yeah. Then we had the 3 Asian athletes pop out of the top 4. John Young made the statement that nobody from Asia should make it this year because of that.
100%. Maybe Artur Semenov, who was clean apparently, but they absolutely, I feel like, do not deserve backfill invites when that many people in your region are popping. Like you've lost your. They already shouldn't have had the second spot.
They always had the second spot, I thought, for Asia the last few years. But what it's tough because do I think that they should have 2 spots? No, but this is the spots that they were given, and the guy that gets in on 5th place, it's not his fault that the people in front of him were juicing and that he would have finished, let's say, 2nd place to earn that second spot from Asia. It's just the whole system of just how we're getting athletes there. That's another discussion, but for the rules of this year, that 5th spot technically earns it. I mean, if you look at the Olympics, like swimming, let's go the U.S. qualifications, that heat that they're doing there for qualification is probably better than the Olympic finals, right? You have global representation at the Olympics, and it's harder to make it to the Olympics than actually competing probably at the Olympics because of how good your country is. And it's the same thing in CrossFit. And I guess that's the hard part and I think I saw one of the comments about, global representation. And it's do we want the sport to grow globally, or do we want the best athletes that are currently, there? And I think that's a decision that CrossFit makes, that they want it to be a global representation. So I think with that in mind that CrossFit has, are we going to get the top athletes? No, but are we going to get representation from different places? Yes. But I guess we'll see. I mean, I don't know if that's the end of the testing and if that's it, because we had a week 3 and a week 1, but yeah, I'm assuming it's not the end.
Let's hope not. It's weird to me that you have Asia and then North America East in one release. You would think the week 1 semis would have had some pops, and then we'd go a week and maybe get a couple more, and then we'd go another and get the final. But yeah, it's you want some global representation and whatever. That's where I think everyone gets one, and that's it. Yes, and then from there we figure out. But at this point, you're I think you need to make this popping situation hurt, and that means you guys have your country is too juiced. We're taking this away from you. Clearly that's the only way that you guys are trying to get into this sport, and we're shutting that down. I don't think you give it to the 5th person.
I don't think you shut it down, but I do believe, as Carolyn pointed out 3 or 4 weeks ago on this show, by giving another person a game spot, it affects this world ranking BS. And that can't happen.
Right.
You can't get another game spot because of a drug suspension and getting another person into the games with all those points to affect the world rankings.
Right.
That's what can't happen. I'm okay with the one person clean moving forward, but we can't allow another person to then go in and get all the games points and then affect the world rankings. Because then it's going to skew it worse and worse and worse as we move forward.
Yep.
Luke Ridley, thank you so much for the $5. 23 Chinese swimmers pop and then get let off. I have ranted about that a couple times. I was at the U.S. swimming trials. I heard about this. It is utterly ridiculous that 23 people all ate contaminated food.
Yeah.
And that the Olympic Committee allowed this through.
Yeah.
Or WADA allowed that through. Freaking ridiculous.
But I mean, our testing protocol just needs to get better in general in our space. Like, it can't just be at the semifinals for most of these athletes, or like, yeah, at the semifinals and the games. Like, there needs to be more out of competition testing. And I'm not talking about out of competition, like getting tested at Waterpalooza or Dubai, like more globally, not just like the people on the list, but more globally, like in between events, not at an event. Like, show up to their gym, show up. Like, that's where I think you could catch like way more people. But people know that they're getting tested at these events. So like, people that are popping, like, they just probably aren't educated enough for whatever they're taking. Like, there just needs to be more testing in general.
Well, the one guy took everything. He basically went to the steroid shop and said, I'll take one of each. When you see the list of stuff he took.
It's just frustrating, right? For the athletes to be competing against athletes that are on stuff. Like,
and that's the same guy that said his drink was spiked. I don't know who's spiking a drink went and bought one of everything, but ridiculous. The stories are just stupid. Well, with that, it's been a fun show. Thank you, everybody in the comments, for being here. You make this show so much fun. The comments were coming in so fast I couldn't even read most of them. But anyway, with that, like, subscribe, hit that notifier so you know when we're out again. We've got some fun interviews coming up, and the only way you'll know when they come is to hit that notifier, right? Because when athletes come in and say, hey, I can do this time, sometimes we don't get a lot of notice. So you got to hit that notifier. You can also hit that join button, and for as low as $2.99, join the channel and help support the cause that way. Just $2.99 a month.
And put your riff ideas or your comments in the comments, not in the chat comments, but in the other comments if you want us to talk about something.
In the YouTube comments, or I'll put up, there's a question up there right now on my Instagram. You can fill that out as a question of the week, or submit a 2-minute or less riff that we will air on the show for everybody. Lex does ask this question. Do we have the Latin America drug testing results yet? We do not, but we're waiting anxiously.
Yeah.
And just to give you a hint of what's coming up this week, we have the roundtable, as always, every week at Tuesday at 12:15 p.m. Eastern time. We are taking a short sabbatical on the weight loss show, as Cheryl is taking a much needed vacation for 2 weeks. And I want her to relax and just enjoy herself and not try to work. Then on Wednesday at noon Eastern time, Justin Kotler, we just talked about him. Kiefer left, Casey's in. Let's see what's going on. He's also coaching Ricky and Alex at the games. Might be an important person to hear from.
Yeah.
In addition, Emma McQuaid, July 4th, 8 a.m. When you get those European athletes, sometimes you got to get up early. So I'll try to get a lot of coffee in early to talk to Emma McQuaid at 8 a.m. this Thursday, 4th of July. And I just booked before the show Bethany Flores for Friday, July 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Awesome.
Love talking to Bethany. Can't wait to catch up with her. So I think Dave is beating me now.
Yeah.
I think so. But I'm trying. And I'm doing it for an hour. He's doing it for 10 minutes. So, well, can't wait to talk to all these people. We're going to keep trying to book other people, and thank you so much. You make this Sunday night show so much fun. With that, we will see everybody next time on Sunday Night CrossFit Talk. Peace out, guys.